course, and rightly so, is talking about Iran. And we have a video here of Canadian Foreign Minister Anita Anand saying Canada has, quote, no intention, end quote, to join the U.S.-Israel war against the Iranian regime. You know what? Even before seeing the clip, you might want to run that by the boss man, Mark Carney, whose opinion on this file changes on a daily basis. I'm not making that up, folks. 5 different opinions in 5 days. Unbelievable. But without further ado, let's see what the minister has to say.
I have indicated in my social media the significant conversations that I have had across the Middle East and Gulf region, as well as with my G7 counterparts over the past number of days. We stay in very close touch by text, by phone call, and we will continue to do so given that we have very close partnerships throughout the region. I want to be clear that we have no intention to participate in Operation Epic Fury. We were not consulted on this military operation and have not participated. I understand that General Carignan is in touch with a number of allies at the Chief of Defense staff level, and will continue to be coordinated in order to ensure that de-escalation and the protection of civilian life and civilian infrastructure is top of mind.
Daniel, I think the biggest takeaway to that was we were not consulted on this military operation. Golly, why would that be? Would it be because Carney keeps doing everything he can, seemingly intentionally, to poke the bear that is Donald Trump, whether it's recognizing the state of Palestine or suddenly cozying up to China as our new big, wonderful trade partner, which just 8 or 9 months ago was our biggest existential threat on the campaign? Could that be why Canada is now delegated to the kids' table at the family dinner?
That's half of it, in my opinion. The other half is, listen, I don't think anyone else is invited to Operation Epic Fury outside of the United States and Israel. Like, I don't think you're invited. And if you listen to what the Americans have been saying, and Hegseth and Rubio and Trump, the Israelis can actually match the Americans at top speed. Canadian military, we've known this can't. Do we have F-35s? Right? Can we actually match the pace of the operation militarily with the Americans? So, like, you might think, yes, it's great for the global coalition to go together, and we all fight together. That's great. But one of the problems with Iraq and Afghanistan, you saw, was like the bureaucracy, right? And all these, agreeing on rules of engagement and all that. The Americans and the Israelis, I don't think, even if Canada was full on ready and willing to help in Operation Epic Fury, if Anita Anand came on and said, we want in, like, we're the RGC is a terrorist organization, I still don't think we get in, because I just don't think we can match the pace. We would slow down the Americans and the Israelis, and we would even harm the war effort by, it's like, listen, this is like Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen are playing on the Bulls, and like, I want to play on the Bulls too, but you play pickup basketball. Like, you can't, like, you would be a liability out there with NBA players. You can't play. So this is another reason you have, we're just I don't think other countries will be allowed in. One, because I don't think they're militarily capable. And two, what you said before, which is the other problem is if you bring in Canada, you bring in France, you bring in the UK, how many hours, and at best, maybe days, weeks, before Emmanuel Macron, Keir Starmer, Mark Carney, or one of them gets cold feet and says, we need to de-escalate and say all this nonsense. So if this is who we're going to be, these wiffly waffly proto-Europeans, then we get to sit on the sideline. And if we want to feel like we're big boys, if we have any interceptor missile technology, which maybe we do, maybe we don't. Like, what do we have? Like, can we station some batteries off the case of the Gulf states? Sure. That's a fine, like, geopolitical thing to do, like harming, defensively knocking down missiles out of the sky. We can help, sure, and I support that. But let's not forget that our missile defense technology fully is reliant on the American military industrial complex, and then supplemented by Israeli innovation. So this game we're going to play, where we're going to slam the two countries that are like supplementing again our defense, while not having our own. Well, like this is why you sit at the kids' table during a war, because you don't have the capability to affect it. And this is, and to me, it's kind of sad as a Canadian, because the birth of Canada as a sort of a nation, you look into World War One, is us and the Anzacs and the Australians and the colonies were so powerful as militaries, were so competent and together that you couldn't treat us as non-country, that we just default became countries because we had the say, we had the Navy, we had the Air Force, we had the manpower, we had the moral courage to like put our money where our mouth is in the first two world wars. And that's how you gain power and influence over the world. Soft power is the most part a lie. It does exist. There are propaganda things, but soft power derives directly from hard power. There is no middle power moral international law outside of its own self-contained bubble. So if you want to play, middle power politics, that's great. You can talk to the Netherlands. You can talk to Germany. You can talk to anyone who believes in like international law and rules and order. So you can preach the converted. But this instantly breaks down when you deal with a society that is the better part, like, third world, are just different, right? So like, this type of thinking, it doesn't work outside of like, say Western Europe, right? Even Eastern Europeans who have to deal with Russians, like Ukrainians aren't going to listen to Canada. Like, well, they'll take our money, but they're not going to listen to any like advice geopolitically that we have because we can't leverage them really. We're giving them not great stuff. So this is sort of the fantasy land that Mark Carney has rebuilt for the liberal base. Is we're going back into fantasy land, and instead of Justin Trudeau telling us we're morally more superior, and that's what fantasy land is based on now, it's an intellectual superiority, sort of an international law, and be able to get technocratic bibbity babble. Is sort of what the fantasy land is based on now, and the Americans have no patience for it because they have to clear the Strait of Hormuz to make sure that the communists can't blockade the world when they invade Taiwan. So they're off doing real things, and we're here talking about the military equivalent to pronouns, and maybe we'll rent an American defense system and put it in the UAE.
Well, Daniel, you make many fascinating points, but you should know this about why you're not cracking the roster of the Chicago Bulls, either in the 90s or now, and that's because white men can't jump, okay? But, Drea, seriously, to Daniel's point...
Steve Kerr's on the team.
To Daniel's point, yes, we don't have F-35s. We don't even have Plan B, SOBs. I don't even know if the snowbirds are strictly for air shows or if those things can actually drop a bomb or shoot a machine gun. But here is what I would counter Daniel's argument with is this. Even if it's just symbolic, even if we just send a couple of warships or a submarine or two to join the cause, I think that is at least a PR win for two reasons. One, we will be on the right side of history in taking down this evil Islamo-fascist regime. And B, we will curry favor with the president when we have all these trade talks on the line. He's going to look around and say, who is with us? Who is sitting this out? We saw with Spain, originally they said, no, you're not even using our airfields. Okay, fine. We're not trading with you. Oh, suddenly, yeah, you can use our airfields. Drea, what say you? If you had Mark Carney's ear, would you say, hey, listen, get involved in this, even on a very limited basis, just for the symbolism?
Well, I think you might have hit it on the nail as to why Carney is going back and forth, because for that very reason, what is the best way to, I think they're trying to toe the line here. I mean, even with what the minister said there, she's like, we do not intend. Intend is a very intentional word being placed there. And we know that Carney has basically said it's not off the table that they are going to some way be that we are going to be some way involved. So when I heard that, what stood out to me is that she's not actually saying we won't. And of course, the whole like we weren't consulted. Yeah, of course you weren't consulted because of all the reasons that you guys pointed out. It's kind of like in high school not getting invited to a party and you're like, I didn't want to go anyways, kind of thing like that. But I don't think they want to give a firm answer because their own base, of course, will be upset if they answer one way. But they know that Trump isn't playing around. He's showing that to the entire world that the Trump administration is a power administration. And I wouldn't be surprised if we do end up getting involved.
Yeah, and Drea, to your point, it doesn't look like all the players are simpatico, while Minister Anand says, no intention of getting involved. Well, we have a video now of Canada's top general saying, hey, guess what? Canada might get involved in the Middle East fray to defend our Gulf allies. Let's see what she had to say.
We are not talking about participating to Epic Fury per se. This is not a mission that we are considering. However, our Gulf partners may require defense and support. So within that context, these would be the type of military options that we could consider.
You know, Daniel, this general, I think, is being too cute by half. We're not going to be part of that, U.S. Epic Fury mission along with the Israelis, but we're going to do what we can for our Gulf allies. The Gulf allies are now in the fray of Epic Fury. Iran has this, I think, preposterous strategy of lobbing missiles over to everybody in the region to get them to turn on the Americans and Israelis, say, look, we don't want this conflict. We can't handle this conflict. I don't think it's working. So, I mean, can we at least call joining the operation for what it really is, Daniel?
Yeah, listen, I agree with everything you both said in the last couple of segments. Like, morally, we should be on the right, and you're right. It's excellent politics from Canada. If we were to, stick with the original Mark Carney plan, which was support from the sidelines, and then you're right, send some ships into the Mediterranean. Say you're in a support role. Canada supports humanitarians, Iranians. Like, think of get the Iranian vote. If you're Mark Carney, say we support human rights in Iran and the regime must go, and like Canada's here in a massive support and whatever, civilians, we're peacekeepers, but morally we must da-da-da-da. Trump is happy because then, you're standing by him and it's the greatest thing. He then stops saying, okay, we need a 51st state. You can better negotiate and fix relations. But remember, liberal politics is specifically about causing friction between Trump and Canada because they want to run in an election in where Trump is threatening to annex the country, because that is their best pathway towards keeping power. And it's pretty clear that that's their priority. And under Trudeau and Carney, power has been centralized into the Liberal Party. Listen, I don't want to come off, undermining our armed forces or security apparatuses, but there is a sense that everyone appointed under the Trudeau era in the last 10 years has an air of suspicion over. And there have been multiple controversies within our military and security intelligence because of the hires. So you don't look at these people as truly neutral arbiters of the military. There's always a potential tinge of Liberal Party over Canada, and you can see. I think we can interpret a bit of that in the general statements that she is sort of on board on the team. And the team is sort of the red team, but that's not, not it's half of Canada that believes it. And this is the type of stuff that will get us in trouble long term. Is you can't have this type of decision making from your national security apparatus. Your national security apparatus has to be national security first, and you have to be thinking about these things. And if we're going to continue to play cynical politics with the Americans, like America isn't Russia and we're not Ukraine. Yeah. You really want to test. You really want to test this? Do you not see what they're doing to Iranian military? Like, what do we have? What do you think? Like, again, the Russians are just using wave tactics, and the Ukrainians have created drones. But now the Americans know drone warfare. Do we know? In all this aid to Ukraine, did we ever try and manufacture any, drones or low-cost equipment or these drone interceptors or anything for the new modern battlefield technology? Did we ever try and supplement Ukraine or get involved in a real way that would make us more proficient war fighters? Especially if we're looking at America and like you're saying, okay, if we're afraid of an American invasion, what's the most analogous thing for an American invasion would be Russia invading Ukraine, the stronger thing. How are the Ukrainians prevailing in defense? Oh, they're doing this. No military readiness has been taken whatsoever on the Canadian military in the last 10 years, right? Yeah. We're not in a better warfighting capability than we were 10 years ago. And that's insane in a world where warfare has evolved so rapidly year to year. We're not just 10 years behind. We're ages behind. And that's what people should be worried about here is we're living in absolute fantasy land. But it's good that, Donald Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu and the Israelis and the Americans are getting rid of an Islamo-fascist terrorist group before they can get a nuclear weapon and threaten the entire world. So the right thing is being done by the adults in the room, and that's very good. And it would have been nice had Canada just done the Mark Carney thing, said thumbs up, good job, and then sat in the corner, and we could just been on the right side of history and taken the win. But we decided that we must appeal to insane boomers who live in Fantasyland, and we must keep Fantasyland and international order and alive at all costs.
It's amazing because, to your point, or to Daniel's point, Drea, these people that are critical of this mission, they're saying, why do we have any skin in the game? In fact, all I see on my daily basis is gas prices going up. Well, this regime was slaughtering tens of thousands of its own people, a lot of them young people, just in the last few weeks alone. They are clear about getting rid of the little Satan and the big Satan and all the other Satans in between. I have no doubt if Iran had nuclear warheads and the missiles to launch them with, they would be lobbing them into Israel and the United States. And one last point, those critics that say, yeah, how did the whole regime change strategy work in Afghanistan and Iraq? It's not the same. And the reason is, if you look at Iran 47 years ago, before the Shah was deposed and they had their revolution, this was a very Western country, very European country. These are predominantly Persians, are not Arabs. The vast majority of people want to take their country back. For all those reasons, I say this is an incredibly important mission, probably the most important mission, military mission of our young century so far.
Well, when you ask the question, why should it matter to us? That's a question that I asked in some of the recent protests. Any protests that involves anything foreign, that's the question I asked. Why should Canadians care? Well, number one, we saw the large amount of Iranian Canadians coming out. But when I asked that question, their answers were a little different than what I normally hear. Understandably, usually people are saying people dying, and of course that's important. But what was different with what they were saying was, well, because it's already happening here. Like, it's already begun here. You should care, because the same reason Iran fell and isn't free is because it's the same thing. The patterns are happening here. You guys should be learning from us. And that's why you should stand for this regime to fall. And, of course, they're always concerned about the ties that the IRGC has right here on our soil. And I think that's something for us to remember, too, about, making that regime fall.
Oh, and Drea, as I've said, if they're willing to slaughter their own people, you don't think they wouldn't think twice of slaughtering us in the West? I mean, that is the kind of 7th century savages that are part of the Iranian regime right now. Yeah, so as the mechanic says down at the shop, when it comes to preventative maintenance as opposed to fixing the car, you can pay me now or you can pay me later, and always, always, always the pay me later plan is much, much higher.